Every time I try to describe Disco Elysium to somebody, I feel like I've forgotten a part of my vocabulary. Obviously, I can tell you it's an isometric RPG where you play as a detective trying to solve a murder case, but that doesn't even describe a game that I would buy, let alone one that I'd enjoy the way that I've enjoyed Disco Elysium. I only played about 2 hours of Pillars of Eternity, and I still haven't played Tyranny, Fallout 1, or Fallout 2. That's how hard I've been dodging CRPGs. But after the credits rolled on my first Disco Elysium playthrough of about 30 hours, the only thing I could think about was what I was going to try out in the next playthrough. I bought the game months ago in a Steam sale-induced fervor that I can barely remember, much less explain. You know how the winter sale is. I got it on a blind recommendation from a friend, and I think the trailers only fail at the impossible task of trying to sell you the experience of the game without revealing too much. It's one of those things that's just better the less you know going into it, so consider this my spoiler warning before I rave about this game for the next however long this takes me. Opening your eyes at the beginning of the game puts you in one of the most fleshed out worlds I've ever seen in a game. And I don't just mean fleshed out as in it's very pretty or there's a lot of lore. Well, it is very pretty and there is a lot of lore, but there's more to it than that. The surreal artwork that's used to represent the people and places of Martinez in the portraits aren't just an exaggeration or an artistic interpretation of reality. The world is surreal. It's filled with locations built of stone and brushstrokes, characters who double as caricatures, and stories that are as true as they are fiction. Every conversation opens up a new pathway to the absurd, the sobering, the extreme, and the mundane. Somehow, Disco Elysium is all of these things at the same time, and it still has time to tell a story. I was trying to come up with like a clever way to describe the writing in this game, but the best I could come up with is this stupid soup analogy. When you make a soup from scratch, right, you can get so caught up in the process of adding ingredients and mixing that you drop your spoon. For most people, dropping your spoon isn't the end of the world, but you do have to fish it back out and your hands are going to get soup all over them. It's just like not a good time. A lot of games drop their spoon in the soup at some point. Mass Effect 3 dropped the spoon a few times, Resident Evil 6 lost the spoon for an entire game, the Stanley Parable just plopped a spoon into the pot and said, "This is the soup." But Disco Elysium isn't just a soup, it's a thick and hearty stew with an iron grip on the spoon and a stirring technique that is... stirring. Okay, let's try a metaphor that isn't complete garbage. The mystery at the core of the story is an elaborate origami piece. How it unfolds is dependent on your detective's thoughts, which are in turn decided by his stats. There are conscious thoughts and unconscious thoughts. Some are focused laser beams, others ricocheting bullets that bounce around the various parts of your brain. Describing it literally, it's a classic gimmick. You hear voices in your head. But the way that the system actually works is some revolutionary shit. The more points you put into a stat, the more it will pipe up in your internal monologue, which will influence your perception of the situations in front of you and decide the choices available for you to pursue. It's a pretty clever system that pushes you to be more true to the character that you're creating. But here's where it gets really interesting. Your brain's skills are complex. Electrochemistry will tell you to drink and get high at every opportunity it sees, but it'll also allow you to better understand people who do. Authority will help you assert yourself to get answers, but it also can lead to unnecessary conflicts. So if logic says that that thing in the corner of your eye could be important, but Inland Empire says looking means imminent doom, what do? There are 24 skills you can put points into, but you'd have to go really out of your way to make a bad build. Plenty of bad decisions you can make though, no shortage of those. If I pull out this gun, things are gonna go very wrong. There's no way. He's gonna look at me and just say no. I am merely is the implication here that I'm going to shoot myself as a demonstration?
Be careful, it's loaded.
Oh my fucking lord, you've killed me, Kim. You've killed me because I've killed me.
Good. Now put it in your mouth.
Speaking of decisions, do you want to change the world? Do you want to shape the course of history for years to come? Well, I've got good news and bad news. The good news is that you can definitely try. The bad news is that you're an alcoholic cop who just went on the most extreme bender of his life. I think Disco Elysium is all about how you put the pieces back together. The events of the murder, your catastrophic past. You can't choose the hand that you're dealt, but you have many different ways to play it, including but not limited to the art cop, the hobo cop, the overly apologetic, the herald of the apocalypse, the book communist, the race theory subscriber, the suicidal, and many more. You can be any of these things, many of them simultaneously. And they're not just pins on your lapel. We're talking straight up fascism, hardcore drug addiction, feminism, bankruptcy, butterball, foosball, fuck it, chuck it, game time shit. Football is back, Hey, wait a minute, did you hear that? Communism? Was that politics?
In my video game?
You know, initially I saw the extreme political dialogue choices and I thought, oh, this is like an insult comic. They're just gonna make fun of everyone. Communists want to murder all the rich people, free market liberals are money goblins, centrists can never get change, so on and so forth. We'll get a few laughs and call it a day. And if you want, the political commentary in Disco Elysium can stop right there. But as you get closer and closer to solving the murder, you can feel some very real, juicy narratives start to emerge. A slimy union leader that's too fat to move, the deified mother of humanism ruling as queen, the last holdout of the communist revolutionaries slowly watching Moralist International dismantle the ideas he fought for. The longer you walk around in Martinez, the longer the shadow looms over you. Again, the game asks you, how do you want to put these pieces together? I think one of the game's great specialties is asking you questions that you didn't even realize needed answers. You can play through the entire game without having any idea what the Pale is, but if you ask the right questions to the right people, you can discover that it's slowly ripping reality apart, and excessive exposure to the Pale has degenerative effects on the brain. And then, if you communicate with the cryptid stick bug, it tells you that the Pale is something that mankind has inadvertently manifested over the course of its evolution and expansion. Now, if you're coming into this game fresh, what I just said makes absolutely zero sense. But they don't just dump this information on you like a cold bucket of water. You have to peel back layers, connect dots, and get just a little bit lucky. How long's it been here?
The ice hasn't closed around the vehicle yet. My guess is it's been here since last Saturday or Sunday.
So close to the time of the murder.
The estimate is correct.
Let's wait for the low tide and see what's inside. It is a simple and rugged machine, favored by working men, government offices, firefighters, animal control people. You know, those kinds of people.
A number on the side.
Yes, 41. What do you think it stands for?
Oh no. Oh no. I drove my car into the sea. Luck is something that I see a lot of people are concerned about when they see skill checks. And I get it. I've always hated percentages for dialogue checks in games like Fallout 3 and Fallout 4, but Disco Elysium has a pretty clever approach to the idea. Most of the checks in-game are actually retriable, usually encouraging you to go find new information that can make the check easier. You'll pass the most important checks eventually, and even the most abject failures can be rewarding in their own way. Aside from the man that you play as, the most insane thing about this game is the way that everything connects. Your skills, your thought cabinet, and your choices, they all intertwine seamlessly with your past, the story, and the setting. It's an absolute masterclass of RPG writing. Neither you nor the world you exist in are a blank slate. Everything in Disco Elysium is connected. Funny how saying that makes you sound like a crazy person.